everybody, and welcome to AMC Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Sinead DeFries, and this is The Daily Show, where we bring you the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Joining us, as always, is your editor-in-chief for AMC Movie News, John Campea.
Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, coming to you live from right here at the AMC Movie News Studios here in Burbank, California, and we are so glad you decided to make us part of your day.
Also here is writer-director John Schnepp.
What's going on, guys? You know today's Wednesday, and that's brand new comic book day. Woo!
Woo! And AMC's Mark Ellis.
It's also the Wednesday after St. Patrick's Day, so day drinking is no longer acceptable, FYI.
Brain expanding.
So as all of you know, the newest Star Wars film, Star Wars The Force Awakens, is hitting AMC theaters on December 18th. Looper director Rian Johnson will be directing Episode 8 in 2017, but now it looks like we may know who will be directing Episode 9. According to multiple rumors, J.J. Abrams, who is directing The Force Awakens, may also be returning to direct Episode 9 in 2019. John, do you think these reports are true? And if so, is it a good idea?
Well, here's the answer. Generally speaking, we don't like to talk about rumors too much here, but when it's a rumor that kind of coincides with something I had already heard, then I don't mind bringing it up. And this was funny. I read this, and what it reminded me of was a number of weeks ago, I was talking to a studio person, and it was in a casual conversation. I was talking about how much I'm looking forward to Star Wars. And one of the things she said, and I just kind of wrote it off at the time. One of the things she said, and you know, with JJ taking a break with Episode 8, and he went on and started talking about something else. And I remember I just kind of taking a break for it. He's coming back. It didn't mean anything. And now I'm like, wait a minute. Did she let something slip? I don't know. Okay, so do I think that's possible? It's definitely possible. I'm not willing to say whether this is or isn't going to happen yet, but it's certainly possible. Would it be a good idea? Yeah, damn right it would be a good idea. Because number one, from everything we are hearing out of Disney and Lucasfilm is that they really are thrilled with what they're getting out of Star Wars Episode 7 so far. So that would make sense. It would also make sense because much like the director who comes in to direct the first episode of a TV series sets the whole tone and the whole direction, the whole temperature of what that series is going to be, JJ's come in and done that with Star Wars Episode 7. Plus, you know that in creating Episode 7, they weren't just charting out a one-hit movie, they were charting out where this whole thing's going to go. So he's already completely tied in. And I would love the idea. You know, I don't like directors staying on one movie too long. The idea of him doing one, then stepping back, letting another flavor come in, like with a Rian Johnson to direct it, then he can come back in. Mm-hmm. This sounds like the ideal situation. So if true, and let's put a big emphasis on that word if true, I think it's fantastic. Anyway, Schnepp, you heard about this. What do you think?
I think that lady you were talking to at Disney just lost her job. So there's an opening at Disney for big mouths.
You're fired.
You're fired. Rehired. Gets on a magic little what is that little sweepy thing that you're afraid of, right?
No,
from the
Fantasia. Don't bring that up.
All right. So yeah, JJ coming back on. I'm all for it. I think JJ's a great director. He's a cool visionary. He creates good shows, and I like his directing style. I mean, everyone gets on him about lens flares and stuff, but there's probably gonna be at least 4 or 5 lens flares. Big deal. There's lens flares in my eyes right now from these cameras. So I think it's a great idea. So
lens flares are like the Wilhelm scream of the Star Wars universe going forward. It's going to be hidden in there somewhere.
Yeah, totally.
If you want me to answer this question, my response would be, do I have to answer right now? Can I wait until I see Episode 7, The Force Awakens, before I decide if I want this guy coming back to another Star Wars film? Of course, right now, I'm totally on board with this because you hired J.J. Abrams not just to direct this movie, but to be a caretaker of the universe, to be one of the guys that oversees the progress of these stories going forward. And I love, John, your comparison to it being like a TV series where you hire a guy to do the pilot. He's the guy who's in charge of the concept of the show. But look at something like Breaking Bad, where they'd bring in other directors like Rian Johnson to come in and do some episodes, right? And so you get a different flavor, and it proves that JJ, he is one of the caretakers, but he's not the guy who has the stranglehold grip. Nobody's ever going to be George Lucas again to the Star Wars universe where they oversee every part of this thing. So I like that in Episode 8 we'll have some more freedom and that somebody else's vision can come in. And then with Episode 9, sure, let's get that guy back.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point about this is a good thing for the Star Wars universe. In as much as, like, I worship at the altar of George Lucas, the guy is a brilliant visionary. He's one of the best of all time, blah, 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 and all that kind of stuff, like prequels notwithstanding. One of the problems with the Star Wars universe getting into the prequel era was that it was George who had no one to answer to ever, whatever he wanted to do, nobody that could say no to him, completely surrounded by yes men. Right now, Lucasfilm has Kathleen Kennedy, and she is in charge of the ship. She's in charge, but she's got to answer to Bob Iger. So even though you have that person who is ultimately in charge in Kennedy, even she has to be answerable to somebody. And even Iger has to then be answered to the shareholders and to the board and stuff like that. So there are checks and balances here. Can that bring with it its own set of problems? Sure. But in the overall scheme of things, knowing that there's just not one person who everything they say goes and whatever, I think this is going to be good for the Star Wars.
Midi-chlorians. I rest my case.
All right. What's next?
Some of you will remember the 1983 action thriller Blue Thunder about an ultra-high-tech police helicopter used for urban pacification that starred Roy Scheider. Well, according to The Hollywood Reporter, Sony Pictures is developing a reboot of the film with a new screenplay based on the original. The report says that this time, the story would be updated with drone technology. Schnepp, is a Blue Thunder remake something that interests you?
Just excites me that I get to talk about drone technology while we beam across like weird satellites into your strange computer or like your phone. Hey, what's it going to say about drones? Well, I think it's awesome. I saw the original Blue Thunder with Roy Scheider, and it was all like about like, man, we got this weird stealth helicopter. It could like do mercenary hits, and it was crazy. It was like a RoboCop, helicopter. Now we actually have drones that are going to be delivering your Google books that you bought. You know what I mean? They'll be like, I just have a drone deliver my pizza, whatever. It's like we're in a weird world right now. So I love the idea. It's probably going on right now. They're like, just take a page from this like top secret military thing that was like leaked online. I know drone technology is all over the place. Like little kids are making speeder bikes with like drone technology. So I think it's a great idea. And like everyone should be afraid of drones. No, I don't know. I think you should embrace them.
Filled with midi-chlorians, kids. They're bad for you.
Mark?
Look, I heard the term Blue Thunder, and I'm like, this sounds like Magic Mike and the Smurfs had a movie crossover. When you hear what it actually is, it's like, yeah, I feel like I've seen a lot of movie versions of this recently, from something like Chappie to RoboCop. I love the idea of a commentary on the future with drones and what that could mean for the future of civilization and humanity. So sure, why not? It doesn't get me out of bed in the morning hearing about Blue Thunder. Like I wasn't like, oh yeah, remember the original Blue Thunder? I didn't know it was a movie. I took a break from Roy Scheider's career after Jaws before Sequest DSP. So, but yeah, it sounds cool. So sure, I'm on board.
I am absolutely on board. What is really funny though is when you go back and you look at the original movie, everything that made Blue Thunder special is now like passe technology. Yeah, totally. Like everything that you do in Blue Thunder at the time was like, this helicopter can see infrared.
And it was also like the helmet where you move, the gun moves.
Yeah, it's
whoa, that's so cool. Like wherever you look, the gun looks.
That's like that's so 2003. Yeah. I mean, it's like, so it's kind of funny. What was really cool though was that at the time, I don't know if you remember this, guys, but when Blue Thunder was out, there was a competing, even though Blue Thunder was a movie, there was a competing TV show that kind of mimicked it.
Airwolf. Ernest Borgnine and Jan Michael Vincent.
Jan Michael Vincent and the late, great Ernest Borgnine.
Yes.
One of the greatest, besides Knight Rider, maybe one of the top 3 greatest theme musics ever to a TV show. Yeah. But this whole concept of like some type of hero that gets his hands on this
super technology. Firefox with Clint Eastwood, another
Firefox, the pre-mentioned Knight Rider, things like that. Really, really cool idea. But you're right, it's got to be a little bit different because now it's not about a hero getting his hands on it. It's about drone technology. I guess the hero will be sitting in his basement like most of us going,
right, I'm controlling 1,300 drones,
Listen to you guys talk about Firefox and Airwolf and Blue Thunder. I thought I was stuck in the 80s with my music, but you guys take it to another level.
Those are all really cool. I mean, Blue Thunder was fun. I was like, it's a John Badham, the guy who made Megaforce. You got to see this.
But you know what was really, okay, Firefox, I don't know why I'm bringing this up, but in Firefox, Clint Eastwood he can't, okay, so Firefox is about Clint Eastwood is this American agent and they steal this new, top secret Russian jet, right?
Which looked really cool. And he's flying it and it's supposed to be able to read your mind. Like you should just think fire and it'll fire. So Clint Eastwood has stolen this jet. I don't know why we're going off on this tangent. Clint Eastwood has stolen this jet and he's flying this jet and he's being pursued by Russian fighters. And then he remembers somebody says to him, no, I can't remember what his name is. You must think in Russian. He's like,
So suddenly Clint Eastwood starts thinking in Russian and he's shooting planes out of the
because
sky.
it was programmed in Russian, so it could only like read your brain if it was you're thinking in Russian. So
Wow.
yeah. And all the special effects were done by John Dykstra, so it's practical little miniatures like flying through mountains. Get sweaty about that. See that movie right now, Firefox.
Firefox. All right, folks, we reached that part of the show.
Went from Blue Thunder to Firefox. Don't see Blue Thunder.
Went off on a wild
see
tangent. We reached that part of the show for buy or sell. Here's how this works. In front of her, Sinead's got a few other items in the world of movie news. She's going to read them off, and then those of us at the table are going to say whether we buy it or sell it. So, Sinead, what do we got?
The first trailer for the new Adam Sandler film Pixels has just hit the web. In Pixels, intergalactic aliens misinterpret video feeds of classic arcade games as a declaration of war against them and attack the Earth, using the games as models for their various assaults. President Will Cooper, played by Kevin James, has to call on his childhood best friend, 80s video game champion Sam Brenner, played by Adam Sandler, now a home theater installer, to lead a team of old-school arcaders, played by Peter Dinklage and Josh Gad, to defeat the aliens and save the planet. Mark, buy or sell the first trailer for Pixels?
Very excited about Pixels. Can't wait to see the movie. I'm going to buy the trailer. It's a very cautious buy for me because the trailer's job is to get me more interested in the product, into wanting to go see this film, and it did that for a while. The last part of this trailer really got me nervous because it started to feel a little corny, in that last scene with the guy who invented Pac-Man talking to Pac-Man like it's his son. I was like, I hope that's not the best joke or gag that they have in the movie. But before that point, I loved this trailer. I love seeing them in a real-life Donkey Kong scenario that, as the world's greatest Tetris player, it's something I've always dreamed of doing. So I love this concept. The trailer wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, but I'm going to buy it.
I am hard selling this trailer. I thought it was awful. I mean, look, when I first read the concept of Pixels, it's like, that could be interesting. It could be really, really stupid and corny and whatever, but there's ways you could probably do this. It would be pretty cool. Yeah, they didn't find it. Who knows? The movie might be awesome. This is just a trailer, but not once did I grin. Not once did I feel a sense of nostalgia. I thought it would have been cooler when the Pac-Man's going through is getting the bus, right? If it actually destroyed and ripped up, instead, it turns into these really weird looking pixel cubies, which, hey, the movie's called Pixels, right? So why not? Did not work for me. I wish I had your enthusiasm. I hope this is one of those cases where the trailers suck, but the movie is awesome, like Edge of Tomorrow. I hope it's another Edge of Tomorrow, but right now it looks just ridiculous. Schnepp?
Yeah, I thought the trailer was horrible and I was cringing. There were moments where I was like, "Oh, for real? No!" Like those when I have those kind of reactions to trailers. I don't think there's a salvageable thing in the film.
What, you didn't like it when Kevin James goes, "How bad could a barrel hurt?"
Oh, I was like, Pac-Man's a good guy. Or just all the one-liners just were horrible. And it was everything that I thought I was hoping the movie wouldn't be.
I think the nerve-wracking thing to me is somebody who bought the trailer was when you see Adam Sandler and Kevin James, you worry, is this going to be something where it's like a grown-ups except with video games? Or even worse, dare I say, Jack and Jill? Is it something like that? Or is it a situation where Adam Sandler is going to go outside of his comfort zone and just making a comedy that he knows is going to do well opening weekend?
No, absolutely not. That's what I think. The trailer is indicative of no. It's not happening, what you're saying. The concept is cool. I love seeing a computer Pac-Man. I agree it should be explosions, not that Tron de-rezzing type stuff. It just doesn't have any kind of impact as far as like, if you're going to have a giant, we were talking about this yesterday, if you're going to have a giant Cubert jumping around and then centipede things falling down, and that's just like, oh, it's a whole bunch of setups for really corny jokes by these comedian guys. It's like, oh, hey, look, he's in Dinklage is in, he's Blinky, ha ha ha. It's like, really cheap jokes and laughs. I don't know. I honestly, I don't even know why now that I thought Pixels would be a good movie. After seeing this trailer, I think it's garbage.
So you're selling it.
Let's remember.
Extra hard sell.
Let's remember, though, it is just a trailer. We've seen lots of trailers like Dread. We've seen lots of trailers that were horrible, and it turns out to be great. Maybe.
I would love
this will be that. Maybe this movie will be awesome anyway, even though it's a bad trailer.
I want it to be good. I would love it to be good.
I would love it to be good. All right, what's next?
Academy Award-nominated actors Jonah Hill and Miles Teller have begun shooting their upcoming movie Arms and the Dudes. Based on a true story, Arms and the Dudes follows two friends in their early 20s, played by Hill and Teller, living in Miami during the Iraq War, who exploit a little-known government initiative that allows small businesses to bid on U.S. military contracts. Starting small, they begin raking in big money and are soon living the high life, but the pair gets in over their heads when they land a $300 million deal to arm the Afghan military. A deal that puts them in business with some very shady people, not the the least of which turns out to be the U.S. government. John, buy or sell the sounds of arms and the dudes?
I am, as much as I sold the Pixels trailer, I buy this concept. This sounds great. It's almost ridiculous to me that this is based on a true story. I mean, this sounds nuts, but also sounds incredibly good. And didn't you put Jonah Hill and Miles Teller in there? This sounds great. I'm very enthusiastic about this. For me, it's a big buy. Mark?
It's a buy for me, too. I like the concept. You're right. The fact that it's based on a true story is crazy to me. It sounds like something that could be in the same vein as The Interview, where it's politically charged, but they're also having a lot of stupid fun with this. I hope that it holds up through the entire course of the movie better than The Interview did. I think Miles Teller is somebody who I'm so sold on as an actor, but comedically, I want to make sure he nails that tone and doesn't get to the point where he's the fast-talking Vince Vaughn impression annoying that he was in a couple of his earlier attempts at comedy. So that gives me a little bit of pause, but I think Jonah Hill's great. I think that they're going to be a great pairing, so I'll buy it.
Quick question. What was the name of that movie again that he did with the Miles Teller did with Michael B. Jordan and Zac Efron? Where they're the three buddies and they're
all going out.
I thought he was pretty good in that.
I liked him in that. That was the first time when I was like, okay, this guy.
It was called Three Pals.
Three Amigos. That's right. That's what it was.
Anyway, Schnepp, buy or sell?
Yeah, I'm going to buy it. If it has that flavor of Wolf of Wall Street, kind of like a biopic, but has a little bit of comedy, but based on reality, especially because Jonah Hill's in it, it sounds great. I mean, that sounds really scary. Like, oh my God, we're going against the U.S. government and their arms deals. You know, that's scary. That's not even comedy. That could fall into like horror realm. So I'm all for seeing this movie.
All right, what's next?
The first full trailer for the upcoming horror film, Insidious Chapter 3, has hit the web. This chilling prequel, set before the haunting of the Lambert family, reveals how gifted psychic Elise Rainier reluctantly agrees to use her ability to contact the dead in order to help a teenage girl who has been targeted by a dangerous supernatural entity. Schnepp, buy or sell the trailer for Insidious Chapter 3?
I have to buy it, even though it's sort of like the Insidious is just, it's that Blumhouse like jump scare thing where you're like, oh God, they're looking out that window, and you know that the next person, why are they pulling back away? Oh, come on, don't have that dude right up there, and you know what's going to happen, but it's all that like half-second delay timing stuff, which they've become so good at. They've mastered it. So even though, Insidious 2 is actually kind of fun, it got so crazy bonkers. So I'm hoping that Insidious 3 is even weirder, and they keep bringing back that lady.
Yeah.
And I always imagine her from Kingpin. Remember? Frightening, nightmare-inducing woman from Kingpin. But she'll always be that lady for me.
My little Roy toy.
Oh, come on over here. Oh, that was great. You're like, oh my God, Kingpin.
I am going to very marginally buy this trailer, actually. You're right. Super visually formulaic, but they find a way to make it work, right? So I got a sense of creepiness from it and whatever, whereas like trailers for like other horror films of its ilk, like Ouija Board or something like that, did not work. This was kind of working for me. I don't got a lot of high expectations for Insidious 3, but I got to say the trailer worked for me, got me a little bit more interested in the film, which after all is the purpose of a trailer. So by a little bit, I'm going to buy it, Mark.
I'm glad it didn't have any pixels, so you guys could actually enjoy the Insidious 3.
Boy, the guy comes over the window and she turns into pixels.
I sell it.
I'm gonna buy it. I love horror movies, and I think that the jump scares get a bad name. They're very exciting things in films, as long as the entire film doesn't rely on nothing but jump scares. But as far as a trailer getting me excited to go see a movie, yes, I know walking into a horror film, there's a good chance that I could be let down, the Lazarus Effect or something like that. But walking into this, I like the first two Insidious films. What they didn't do is scare me as much as I wanted them to after the fact. For whatever reason, I like to torture myself, not just be scared in the theater. I like to go home and hear something in my apartment and be like, oh my God, that's the thing from the movie. It's going to kill me at 3 a.m. I want to feel that way. For whatever reason, I want to feel that way. The first two didn't do that, but this one looks like it might be able to. A prequel gives me a little bit of pause because horror prequels tend not to work as well. Prequels in general don't always have the best reputation. So it makes me a little hesitant, but I'm still going to buy the trailer.
I remember Ann and I, this is years ago, obviously we had just got this house and we're living in this house and we went to go see, what's the king of the horror movies?
Amityville.
No, of the modern trend
Paranormal Activity.
Paranormal Activity. Of the modern point of view kind of thing, right? So we went to go see Paranormal Activity for the first time. This is a testament for the film, is that we came out and was freaked out by it, freaked out. And the bad thing was I had to leave on a business trip after we saw that movie. And so then I got calls from friends. Yeah, Anne's like calling all of us to come and stay at your house with her right now. She says she can't be alone in the house. I was like, cool, go for it.
But you had to go stay in a hotel, which a lot of times are just as scary.
Well, it depends on which hotel you go to.
Yeah.
Bring in a blacklight, then you'll be really scared. Depending on the hotel you're in.
Different kind of scared.
Different type of scared.
Look at all these ghosts. There's so many ghosts.
Those aren't ghosts. Those aren't. Do not
Those
touch
are
the
pixels.
Ghosts. That is not ectoplasm. That is something very, very
Don't
different.
touch it. He's like rubbing his face. Ghosts. Yeah.
Was Slimer from Ghostbusters?
There's a lot of slime.
No, he wasn't.
Bing
No,
bong.
he wasn't.
Okay, we have reached that. Oh, okay, give me a second. We've reached that part of the show for mailbag. Listen, if you've got a topic or a question about ghosts, you can email us anytime at amcmovietalk@gmail.com. Every day we take a couple of questions from the mailbag. So, Sinead, what do we have?
Aravinda Sen writes, "Hey AMC crew, love this show. When it comes to the DC universe, from what I've read from interviews with the actors, such as Jason Momoa, what they all talk about is Zack Snyder's vision for the entire DC universe. These statements, plus the fact that he is producing Wonder Woman and Suicide Squad, make him sound like he is the Kevin Feige of this universe. But I've heard John say that he thinks a director may not be the right person to tackle that role. So I'm curious to see why you think that may be the case."
Yeah, it's kind of a funny thing because I'm one of those guys that I unabashedly completely bought in and loved Man of Steel. I love what Zack Snyder did with that film. Zack Snyder is also hit and miss. I mean, he's done some really, really great work. And then he's done some very, very poor work. We're looking at Sucker Punch and stuff like that, right? And so I love what he did with Man of Steel. I just don't think that a director is the guy to over shepherd an entire movie universe like that. I like that Kevin Feige is a guy who's not directing any of those films. He's a guy who in a dispassionate way sits back and kind of understands the whole picture and nudges and guides his directors along the way about the overall vision. And because he's not invested in the movie he's directing. And so I agree with you. It is looking more and more like Zack Snyder is kind of becoming that Kevin Feige figure. They have not said that. Nobody has said that officially. But I agree. It kind of looks like that, right? And that does concern me. As much as I love what he did with Man of Steel, as much as I'm looking forward to Batman versus Superman, I would be concerned if they started pouring the power for the overall franchise into him. I just don't think it's the right move. If it is what they're doing, hopefully I'm proved wrong. Anyway, Mark, what do you think?
I think this goes back to what we were talking about with Star Wars, where people were concerned, or maybe they want J.J. Abrams to be involved in every Star Wars movie. And it's like, no, you got to pull back because he is a director. He's very closely attached to his film, and you can't have him oversee the entire universe. I think what people miss sometimes is that sometimes the most famous person in any given pool is the one that you're going to go to. So a lot of people, for whatever reason, know who Kevin Feige is. As many people may not know the other people at DC, but they know who Zack Snyder is. Same thing with Lucasfilm, where not everybody's going to know who Kathleen Kennedy is, but they all know J.J. Abrams is one of the guys who's bringing his vision on board the future of these films. So I think Zack Snyder, I don't think he should be the guy to oversee the entire DC universe, and I don't think he is the guy. He's producing some films. He's got a great visual flair. I think he's a very talented dude, but I think you need other people around him to inject more story into it. Because unlike you, I didn't love Man of Steel at all for that exact reason. Thought visually it looked fantastic. I wanted a little more meat on it.
Shep?
Well, I think Zack Snyder has demonstrated through his comic book adaptations that he's not just a director, but he's also a producer with his wife. They produce all the films. Mm-hmm. So I think coming at it from that perspective, I think them overseeing the DC cinematic universe kind of falls into a little bit of a Feige, even though, Feige's not directing, he's kind of overseeing the tone of everything, as we saw with Edgar Wright being taken off the film. Tonally, it's got the tone that Kevin Feige wants. If he wants a little bit more humor, he's going to go towards someone like James Gunn who can add that flavor that they want. They're like, look, we want it off the rails. We want to try it. We got a tree and a raccoon. Go for it, dude. You know what I mean? I think with somebody like Snyder, he's not going to direct all of them. He's going to do like he did Man of Steel. Now he's doing Batman v Superman. Then he's going to do Justice League 1 and 2. I don't think he's going to have anything to do with the new Batmans. We're hoping that Ben Affleck is going to be directing those. I don't think he's going to be directing Wonder Woman. He's not going to be directing Aquaman. He's not going to be directing the Flash movie version. I think what they're doing is they're setting the cinematic tone for the DC universe, taking the jump from Man of Steel that already had a little bit of that flavor from Nolan's Dark Knight series. So all that stuff is like, that's the DC tone, that kind of realistic, grim, gritty. And remember, we talked about that many months ago. Like, there's DC said no humor. It was like some mandate that it's not going to be funny. None of us ever took that seriously. It was more like, hey, the mandate was more like, we're not going to be goofy or fall into the realm of like, you really had to say that, Thor, like that kind of back and forth chimo stuff, which we love from Marvel. But that's that Marvel tone. So DC's going to have that different tone. And I think that's what it's all about. I don't think Snyder's going to be, every single shot they're going to like, or when a director's making Wonder Woman, it's going to have that weird slow-mo Snyder stuff in there because he's like producing it,
He's just breathing in the editing room. Like, let's do some more slow-mo in
I think
here.
we got to ramp up that shot, do the speed ramp thing. So I don't think that's going to be the case, but I think it's about tone. So,
and you just brought up a name. Like, if anybody's going to be the shepherd of this sort of thing, and if it had to be a director, I want it to be Ben Affleck. Everybody knows his geek cred and what his background is with the comic books and stuff. The guy has a Batcave built into his house, for heaven's sakes. But and he is simply one of the best directors in Hollywood right now. Everything he directs is an A+. His last one he directed won Best Picture of the Year. Directors Guild of America gave him Best Director of the Year. All that kind of stuff. So if you had to have a relationship there where Ben Affleck is directing something, don't tell me Zack Snyder has authority over him. Don't tell me Ben Affleck's got to answer to Zack Snyder. I am a Zack Snyder fan, but I would love to see like maybe a Ben Affleck in that type of a role if we were going to have a director, and I don't want it to be a director. But if you did, I think that's the name to go for.
I don't think it would ever be like, I think Snyder would defer if Ben Affleck and like Chris Terrio were like, hey, we know you suggest this, but we can't, we hung out last night, we came up with this. They probably plussed the scene or made it better. Yeah. And I don't think anyone would be like, no, Ben Affleck, you Oscar winner, get away from me. I think it would be like, thank you, dude. That's such a cool idea that you worked on our thing and made it better. I think that's how it kind of works. Everybody has a synergy. So, and that's the one thing that you always hear about Zack Snyder. He is obsessively collaborative. Yeah. He likes working with the people around him, which is really cool.
That's a great point too. Is it, there's no right way or wrong way to do this. Just because Marvel has a great template with the Kevin Feige is the overhead of everything, and he goes on stage and introduces all their cool movies, and DC does it in a different way. Doesn't mean it's the wrong way to do it. If you can sit around in a room and have a bunch of directors all collaborate and just have one great Abraham Lincoln meeting about this, maybe that's the way to go going forward for DC, and it could work.
All right, what's next?
Justin P. Law writes, where would you rank Tom Cruise of all time? Guy just seems like a machine, always giving a good performance, even if the movie isn't the greatest. Anyway, thanks for taking the question, and keep up the great work.
Yeah, Tom Cruise is a guy, look, he lost a lot of his rep. And I'm not going to say cred. He lost a lot of his rep during the whole kind of crazy period he went through with the couch jumping, all that kind of stuff, and other stuff that came up as well. But through all that, you always had to remember this guy, whatever wackiness goes on around him at the time, the dude is a elite actor. He's great. He's got 3 Acting Academy Award nominations to his credit. He could have had 4 or 5. And you're right. Whenever he's in something, even if it's something that's bad, and he hasn't appeared in a lot of bad films, but even then, he delivers and he brings something solid to it. Even put him in something like Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow, All You Need Is Kill, whatever it's called. When you put him in a movie like that, where it's kind of different from what we're used to seeing him in lately, he rises up to it and he carries it. That being said, I don't know that as much as I really respect him as an actor and I really enjoy watching him in films, I don't know that you put him in the top 20 as far as like all-time greats. You put together a list of the 50 all-time great actors, Cruise probably pops up on my list. And that's a huge compliment. It's not meant as a slam, it's meant as a compliment. But I don't see him in that conversation of the greatest of all time. If you're going to limit it to 10 or 20 or maybe even 25. I don't know. Schnepp, how do you see it?
Yeah, there's so many actors and actresses. Like these kind of list things always perturb me somewhat because, you have 100 people. You're like, just looking at these posters, I'm like Sean Penn, Al Pacino, Javier Bardem,
Annette Bening,
Christopher Plummer, Annette Bening. That's what I mean. Idris Elba. All these people are super talented. Yeah, Tom Cruise falls into the category of like he's been in tons of blockbuster films. And his name has been synonymous with like, put him in a movie and it's going to get 500 million. He became one of those name marquees, which was synonymous with blockbuster. It was like, put him in any film, he's going to open big. He was one of those guys you could cast and it's going to open around the world. We were talking about that yesterday. Like a global name. That doesn't always indicate a good film or even a great film. It just indicates, hey, put these parts together, you make a good cake, everyone's going to eat it. You know, whether they get botulism.
Now I'm hungry.
Yeah.
Thank you, Schnapp.
I think he's been really great in the last few years. He's picked really good roles. I mean, the Paul Anderson film that he did, Magnolia. I mean, he's picked different roles.
Born on the 4th of July.
Yeah, to push himself as an actor. And that's the thing that I respect about him. He could have just laid back and done a billion cocktail movies and Top Gun movies. And he would have still been like somebody you'd go back to, like, hey, get that action dude. He's on DVD now, but you can get him. You know what I mean? Like, it would have fallen, his career would have fallen that way, I think. But he pushed himself and got really good roles. And that's why we look at him, even though he had the crazy period. I still think about him and Oprah with Electricity, even though that never happened. Like, I see that Electricity. Because it makes me laugh.
Emperor.
Yeah, I mean, I say every time.
If you haven't seen that, by the way, look that up on YouTube, like with Tom Cruise with the Emperor lightning, the Force lightning. It looks really funny.
It's incredible. But I mean, that's a meme. That's not Tom Cruise. So he's a great actor. I would definitely put him in the top 100.
I think, I think there's an argument to be made for him being the greatest movie star of all time. I think that he's in the top 5 for that, regardless of who else you put in there. As far as, I think he's a great actor. I don't think he's the greatest actor I've ever seen. His one tragic flaw, if you want to call it that, would be he has trouble disappearing into a role. He can't Daniel Day-Lewis into something else. And that's because he's so famous and he's so recognizable. But the fact that he's had one crazy period, if you want to say him jumping on a couch and dating the girl from Dawson's Creek and getting married to her, and that's and he's got some religious stuff, and he eats healthy, and he's a little weird, and he's a little standoffish, and he smiles too much.
I was fine until you got to the eat healthy thing. Now I'm like, screw this guy.
But he's been that famous for so long, and that's the biggest thing that we can throw at him. Plus, this guy is willing to do anything he can for a movie. You're not going to see. There's a lot of great actors. You're not going to see any of these other guys standing on top of the tallest building in the world for Mission Impossible 4 because they don't want to cheat the audience with CGI.
Hanging from like some little thin tether. That's incredible. That Dubai sequence. I mean, that made me respect him just as a human being to be able to have the cojones to pull that off. It's insane. I was in a safe movie theater getting all like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Like just watching it. So
here's something too. There are very few actors out there that I can honestly say, because look, you remember me, what really makes the quality of a film is not necessarily the actors. The actors add a lot to it and stuff like that. It's the story and, what is the movie about and the direction it goes, the script, all that kind of stuff. But Tom Cruise is one of those actors to me that when his name comes up and he's in a movie, you instantly have my attention. Why? Not just because he's such a solid actor, but because he also has, earned a reputation that he picks good movies to be in. He seems to have a really good eye for knowing this is going to work or this isn't going to work. And he's proved that over and over and over again. And so, he's one of those few guys that I was like, if he's in it, I'm in. All right. Was that it or is there another one?
That's it.
That's it. All right. Well, folks, we also like to take your questions via Twitter. So if you want to tweet us, you can tweet us anytime. Just get on your Twitter and tweet using the hashtag AMC Movie Talk. Tweet using the hashtag AMC Movie Talk and send them some questions. And we love to use some of your tweets every single day. So Sinead, what is in the Twitter sphere? I called her Sinead the other day. Okay.
It's all right. Phil tweets, often I hear you guys talk about red band trailers. What is the difference between standard trailers and red band trailers?
Well, a fair question. Actually, I've been asked that question by a lot of people, actually. Simple as this. A red band trailer, like when, you see that come up, this trailer, it's usually a green screen with the words, this trailer has been approved by Motion Picture Association of America. That just means when it's green, that means, hey, you can play this trailer in front of any audience. When it comes up and it's red, that screen is red and says this trailer is brought to you by the Motion Picture. When that's red, that means it is an R-rated trailer. Not that it's to an R-rated film. All R-rated films have green band trailers. But when it's a red trailer, that means there's going to be swearing, some really brutal violence, or some nudity in this trailer. And they'll generally only play in theaters red band trailers in front of R-rated movies. So unless I'm missing something, that's pretty much the distinction between the two, unless you can think of it.
I mean, you hope that all those elements are in a red band trailer. Otherwise, you feel ripped off.
If I click on a red band trailer and there's no boobies, I'm writing a angry, strongly worded letter to
I agree. That's what you expect when you click on a red band trailer, kids. But you should be seeing boobies.
Although we are not encouraging underage people to watch red band trailers.
When I say kids, I mean pals and friends.
That's
right.
Know what
I mean.
Yes. All right. What's next?
Joel tweets, do you think Cirque du Freak will be rebooted? It's been a while, bro.
The funny thing is with Cirque du Freak, that was one of those movies where the trailers made me buy into it. You had John C. Reilly, which was such a weird role for him, and that's kind of what appealed to me, playing this vampire. Josh Hutcherson was a blowing up star at the time, and the trailer's actually pretty cool. And I watched the movie, and I'll say this, the movie was a good idea. I never read the book. The movie was a good idea. Didn't quite work for me. Didn't fire on all cylinders. Wasn't there. Now, could they reboot it? Well, look, let's look at it this way. The original movie does not have the following to justify it. And the book isn't all that popular to justify, hey, we tried it once and it didn't work, so let's try it again anyway. So while never say never in this town, I would doubt we're going to see a Cirque du Freak reboot, Mark.
No, I don't think so. Not anytime soon, because this is when we talk about blockbusters getting bigger and independent films are still going to have their stay. When the middle class of films starts to get washed away, that's what I think the first movie suffered from a little bit, is that it had some stars maybe you've heard of, but they weren't box office draws. And you had a story that looked kind of cool, but I got to save my money for this other thing. So that's why it didn't play better in theaters. And so I think because of that, I don't see a studio making a reboot of that film or just trying to redo the books anytime soon.
Shep?
Yeah, for me, I forgot about that film. I never saw the actual film. I remember seeing the trailers and not wanting to see the movie, and then forgot about it until right now. So you've actually made me want to see the movie.
Well, there you go.
I was like, all right, maybe I'll crack that one open. So
it's an interesting film. It's kind of got that feel to it where it's like you're watching and you're like, this was a good idea. It just isn't working, even though the idea was good. I'd be curious to know your impressions of it.
Everything vampires have been through in the last 10 years in movies, dealing with emotional werewolves and glowing and stuff, it wasn't that bad of a film.
okay.
All right, what's next?
Nick tweets, thoughts on Sacha Baron Cohen playing Candlestick in the Beauty and the Beast live action film. Think of Les Mis role.
You know, it's funny. We were talking on the show the other day, and I mentioned Roberto Benigni as the Candlestick, even though he's Italian, you want a French accent. And then this tweet came in, Sacha Baron Cohen. That's perfect. I mean, there's no other word for it. That is perfect. And don't even think about Sacha Baron Cohen in the Les Mis role. Think about Sacha Baron Cohen in the one he did with Scorsese recently. Hugo. Think about him in Hugo. And now him as what's his name? Lemire? The name of the Candlestick. Yeah. As that with
Emma Thompson as the talking pot.
Emma Thompson as Mrs.
The singing pot.
Mm-hmm. I think that I love it. I absolutely love that casting. I'd be all for it. What about you guys?
They haven't had a casting misstep yet with this movie, and I think this would be another one that you knock right out of the park. He's tall, he's slim, he's built like a candlestick, he's funny, he's great comedic relief. You said Roberto Benigni, and that's a fine idea. Then I started thinking about the fact that
climbing
Roberto
over all
Benigni,
those chairs. Come on!
But he was also in another live-action Disney adaptation.
Oh, yes.
That shall not be named, but it starts with a P, and it's about a wooden boy who comes
starts
to life.
with a P, ends in Pinocchio.
it belongs
really
on the
bad.
island.
I thought you were going to say starts with a P, ends with an S, and it's called
Pocahontas.
My mind went into the gutter.
Use the black light.
Yeah, I mean, as good as Life is Beautiful is, which is one of the all-time great motion pictures, Pinocchio was that bad. It really was that bad.
Yeah. So, but I think Sacha Baron Cohen's a great idea.
All right, folks. So that'll do it for us for this installment of AMC Movie Talk. Thank you so much for joining us. Listen, don't forget, lots of great films playing at AMC Theaters right now. Head on over to www.amctheaters.com for all of your theater, showtime, and of course, your movie ticket information. If you want an audio-only version of this episode, you can get our podcast feed. Just look in the description of our video here, and you will find a link to that podcast feed. Also, don't forget to click the thumbs up button to tell the world that you like what we're doing. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and share this video around on your various social media channels. I want to thank, first of all, the guys sitting at the table with me, sitting over here to my left, host of AMC Heroes, and of course AMC Rewind, Mr. John Schnepp. Schnepp, where can people find you online?
You guys can find me at Twitter and Instagram, just at John Schnepp and at TDOSLWH. I can't wait to go to the House of Secrets today. Normally I go to Meltdown, but I try to change it up. Brick and mortar, got to have that support. Always go to a comic book store and buy something. So I'm going to get some new comics. TDOSLWH coming out May 1st.
Of course, sitting over here, Mr. Mark Ellis. Mark, where can people find you?
On the line at 5150 Ellis. In real life, I'll be taking my black light to the Comedy Condo in Columbus, Ohio. I'll be at the Funny Bone this weekend, Thursday through Sunday. Get tickets at markellislive.com.
And of course, our lovely host today, Miss Sinead DeFries. Sinead, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Sinead DeFries and at thatsosinead.com.
And you can find me on Twitter and on Facebook. Just follow me at John Campia. Thanks a lot for joining us, guys. My name is John Campia for AMC Movie News. And until next time, bye-bye.